own Bob Schieffer had the opportunity to catch up with Ambassador Nancy Brinker. She's, of course, the founder of the Komen Race for the Cure and the first person to wear a pink ribbon for breast cancer awareness, which is kind of hard to believe because those now are everywhere. She's also the author of Promise Me, the story of how her sister's struggle with cancer launched a global movement. Take a look.
Well, Nancy Brinker's had many titles in her life. She's been an ambassador. She was the chief of protocol. She won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But your life's work has always been the Susan Komen Foundation.
Right.
And you're back to it. And this wonderful book, and it is a wonderful book because it's not just a story about how you form this foundation, but it's a story of you and your sister, and you could not have been closer. You were more than sisters. You were best friends. You were confidants. You had this great sense of adventure, and you tell it all in this book. Nancy, just tell me how it was that you came to form this foundation, because I know it was your sister asked you to do it.
Right, and it was the journey. Bob, it was the journey we went through together during her disease. You know, times were very different 30 years ago. You couldn't say the words breast out loud. The clinics weren't formed to treat breast cancer. There weren't any multidisciplinary practices. There were no community cancer centers, no 1-800 numbers, no cell phones, no internet. So you couldn't get information, and worse yet, you couldn't talk about. It was the big C. So it was this environment that she lived and went through this painful disease and died, and had friends crossing the street when they saw her because they thought she had a virus and they'd catch it.
She was what, 34?
33 when she was diagnosed and 36 when she died.
And literally, as she was dying, she said to you.
Literally, as she was dying, she looked at me and said, "Nanny, when I get better," that was always, she used to say, "when I get better," and it always meant when I die, because she was so young. "I want you to promise me that you will help me end breast cancer forever." And I promised her I would. And I said also, if it takes the rest of my life. Now, I didn't realize that it really would take the rest of my life, but it's been the most amazing journey, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to build this organization with her name still at the top of it.
Some people grieve, some people cry. You did all of that, but you also did this. How did you, in the beginning, because I think people forget, you talk about how different it was, but the whole world was different in those days, and how you came to have this idea. I mean, you started the pink ribbons. That's we now associate that with breast cancer and the fight against breast cancer. It's everywhere, the Komen Foundation. But how did you, in the beginning, just come up with this idea?
I didn't come up just myself. You know, Bob always, what do they say, life is when preparation meets opportunity. And honestly, I took my early education A from my mother, who was a great community worker and did everything she could, and our parents who wanted us to fix things that were wrong and broken, but really watching the polio epidemic, watching how a nation galvanized itself around a disease, funded scientists. I mean, you couldn't walk out of your house in those days without hearing about the March of Dimes. And my mother used to say, if I hear about that one, but we all worked in it. We all gave our dimes. We did whatever we could. And one day we woke up and the church bells were ringing and they had announced there was a vaccine. And the school teachers wept, our parents cried. You know, they felt as if a war had ended. And then to watch it translated into orderly vaccination programs, that was my template for approaching this disease, and I still believe it works. That, you know, we saturate the culture with this issue, educate people. It's a much more complex set of diseases than polio was, but nonetheless, the principle's the same.
Education is really the key. You may not know this, but my own mother died of breast cancer because she was afraid to go to the doctor. She had seen her other friends who had had these horrible radiation experiences, so she wouldn't go to the doctor. My wife, on the other hand, is a double breast cancer survivor. She had it before she was 35. She's still with us.
Wonderful. That's a really good story, and one that we're hearing more and more of. And as you say, it's education, it's awareness, and hope. You know, we get criticized sometimes for the pink ribbons. The pink ribbons aren't just fluffy and mean, they mean power. You know, we exert advocacy. We have the back of the breast cancer patient from prevention to end-of-life issues. across all cultures. And it's really also about providing a roadmap, a template, and hope to people. And it's coming. It's really coming.
Where do you think we are right now?
I think we've all but eradicated early breast cancer in the United States. If things are done right. When we started this, Bob, the 5-year survival rate for very early breast cancer was 74%. 30 years later, it's almost 98%. And I'm really proud of that. People will say, well, no, it isn't well anything. It's that the education, the awareness, the getting this into practice, the funding, the science. The next step is keeping people alive longer who have advanced disease. And that's happening now. Triple negative breast cancer, inflammatory breast cancers. He's very aggressive. We're getting our hands around them now. We're understanding them. We have a whole new class of drugs being introduced, PARP inhibitors, which will stop the growth of some cancer cells. It's just happening very quickly. Yes, we have issues with regulatory agencies. Yes, we have issues with clinical trials, but it's constant, steady pressure. It's not sexy, it's just the work. And we're getting there, and I think by the end of the decade, you're going to see a lot of people living better lives.
Nancy, I want to thank you, not just for being here, but for what you've done, and just also say that this book is so much more than just how you have put together this foundation and the fight. It is this wonderful, wonderful story of two sisters and what they meant to one another.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.